welcome back. This is the news from Not So Far North. I'm Jared Randall, and I don't know how long this one's gonna be. Well, I'm gonna talk about love. That's what's been coming up. But first I'm going to talk about the current moon phases, but overall, the last few days, I've known that I was going to be trying to not switch tracks, but sort of head in a direction away from doing so much I've been talking a lot about the 5D and the 3D and it's been important to think about those things, but right now it's just not. Right now, with everything going on in the world, there's a lot of density, of darkness, and there's almost a sense of blindness, of being in a fog or what have you, that I know I'm experiencing. I'm sensing that a lot of others are too. And it's important in that kind of time to then seek out the light, to not get bogged down in those feelings, in that sensation, in what wants to pull us down. As I've been saying, the real battle is against fear. It is so much against fear, and along with that, then what divides us, and what divides us ends up being fear. We divide ourselves from what we're afraid of, typically. We run from it, we cut it out of our lives, we drive it away from us, we kill it, whatever it is. And while it's important to query fear, the actual solution, if you will, is love. But before I get into that, I do want to talk about just where the moon is at right now. It is like right now, where I'm at least. It is, moving out of Libra into the sign of Scorpio. And in Libra, it's been very concerned with justice, with balancing things, with ideas, with sifting ideas, deciding which ones go, which ones stay, and so on. And there's been a sense of rebirth of ideas too, like what have we forgotten about or had let go of that comes back in, and it has some new meaning, some different life. This could be old stories, old songs, old ways of being, memories from childhood, memories from early adulthood, whatever it might be. And finding these things again, and realizing two things is, again, Libra is balance, so it's not going to pull punches. It's going to see how much those things maybe don't fit anymore, but also it's going to honestly say, here's something I can take forward with me. And this comes right at the end of the moon being, on the sort of the downside of its fullness, right? It comes up into fullness, gets big, it gets bright, it sheds a spotlight on something, and then it starts to decrease again. But it's still quite full. But and Libra's been in that coming down from the fullness, or that's where the moon has been these last couple of days. But now the moon is going back into that cycle of really shedding, of whittling down to a point, deciding what actually needs energy and what doesn't. Okay, that's this waning cycle. And, we've hit what is the last quarter phase of the moon. And that really is when we start to pick up speed in letting things go. Pick up speed in shedding things. Pick up speed in narrowing our focus down. And it just so happens that the moon is right now going into Scorpio, which is a sign of letting things go, a sign of rebirth, of things dying and then coming back in a different way. So we kind of see this movement from Libra here into Scorpio at an opportune moment to be doing that work, to really shed even more of what we don't need. And I talked, earlier in the year here, earlier in January, a lot about how I don't equate the Gregorian calendar year ending and then beginning with the idea of shedding of things, nor with New Year's resolutions. I don't really find that to be helpful. I find that actually we should be doing this on a quicker cycle, following the moon cycle. We're going to see a lot more progress that way, because a year is a too big of a chunk of time for the human brain to really grab a hold of. We don't live in years. That's why when we look back and we go, oh man, where did that year go? Well, at the very same time, we're like, that was the longest year ever. And it's both true at the same time, because we don't live in years. Not really. We live in days. And moon cycles are something that we can really latch onto, that we can feel, we can embody, I think much more than the solar cycle. Where we see the solar cycle, again, is more in the sense of the seasons, right? And what season are we in? Are we in the planting season? Are we in the growing season and the watering season? Are we in the harvesting season? Are we in the, okay, it's time to now cool off and rest and store up with what we've already harvested and set aside for ourselves and gain our strength back, also trying to outlast the winter, the cold months, the dark months, until the sun comes back and we do it all over again. It's not the same thing. And again, we can latch on to seasons in that sense more than I think this whole year cycle. But to get back to the moon in Scorpio, then this is a really good time to work with that energy of letting things go, of drudging things back up. We've just come out of Libra where we can do that balancing, and so we're already in that kind of mode of balancing, if you've been experiencing that. And now really Scorpio is just like, oh, that is not mine anymore. Go, 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 go. Get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. And then, oh, but this. And this was dead, and I'm literally bringing it back to life in my hands right now. It's a magical sign. And it's also then a movement from the air energy to the water energy, from mind, thoughts, to heart, feelings, the waters. So yeah, I just encourage you to work with those energies as I'm doing. Yeah. So there's a lot of heart stuff right now. There's a lot of water, a lot of that type of energy, and yeah. Again, I think the trick is to work with the energies because they can be strong, and we can decide that, oh, that's too much. I've got a bit of that going on today. Oh, that's too much. I've just finished a big batch of work. I'm a bit tired. My body's tired. My brain's tired. And then all this emotion rushing in. No, I don't want to. I don't want to deal with that. Don't want to deal with that. But it's really encourage you if you're in a similar space to not shove that energy away, to look at it, to kind of let it come in, and then to see, okay, what's here, and what isn't mine, and that can go away. The nice thing about water is you give it a little hole, and it just flows away, and it's not there anymore. Water's actually really hard to hold on to, but sometimes we by trying not to feel, we're actually holding on to the water, we're actually encapsulating it, instead of just like, okay, look at it and let it slide through your fingers. And maybe we take a little drink of that part which we feel is like, yeah, that's mine. The rest we can let slide away. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on in that lunar cycle, what I'm sensing, what I'm dealing with, what I'm finding. And hopefully that helps somebody who's maybe experiencing the same. So yeah, that's one thing. And I want to slide into from there, and this isn't disconnected actually. Not that I really planned it this way or thought of it this way, but to really be thinking about the heart and thinking about love. And it's a word that we throw around, and of course this gets talked about all the time. Love is meaningless. The word is meaningless because it gets thrown at everything and applied to too many different situations, so that we, especially in the world of writing, which I come from, it's almost a naughty word. Dropping an F-bomb is more understandable than using the L word. Love, we don't know what that means. You can't just use that word. So yeah, it's interesting that way, isn't it? And it is a problem. So what I want to do is think about love in a very particular way, in a certain kind of specificity, which is, and this for me could start with a story I'm not really gonna tell at this point, but I had certain experiences over the past year, and I had one very powerful experience. Last March, actually, no, last May, I guess it would have been. Yeah, it would have been May. And I'm not going to talk about that specifically, but it was this time where I knew in a different way just how much we are all one. Not just human beings, but literally everything is one. We spend so much of our lives trying to define ourselves as opposed to other people and other things and other ideas, and I'm not that, 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 I'm not that. In some ways, that's It's what our philosophy has been built upon, and it's this very sort of it's very much in the sword's energy, and it denies the cup's energy, right? The cups, the water flows together, and we see oneness, we see wholeness, we see I can't separate out one molecule of water from the rest, right? But the air energy is the sword's energy. I'm slicing and I'm dicing and I'm making everything as small as possible so that I can understand it and grasp it with my mind, right? And I had this experience where and you know, many of us know this, right? We're all one. Well, of course we are. Yeah, it's just like the word love. Well, of course it's love. Well, what does it mean? What does it mean to say we're all one? It's difficult to pin down. Do we mean it's that we're all the same stuff? Well, it looks like we're all a little bit different. And I'm different from a tree, and a tree is different from the water, and the water is different from outer space, which is different from the sun, which, you know, I guess there's a lot of stars out there that are suns, but can't really tell because they're so far away. They seem different to me, right? So we have all this difference everywhere. Difference. And this idea of love being oneness is tricky. Because then we come back to ourselves. If we do experience it, if we do have this sort of transcendent experience ever, where for some amount of time we realize that we are not different from everyone else. We are part of the same being. We're part of the same universe. It's really what it gets back to, what it gets down to. And this idea of a consciousness that is bigger than any one of us, that is the whole thing all at once, right? That there is this whole thing that wants to know itself, and it has split itself up into all these parts so that it can see itself, because otherwise it's just itself, and it will never know itself. And I'm not the first one to say this, obviously. This is an old idea. It's the idea I hold to. But more than that, it's been something I've felt and I've known in a heart way. I've known with the water energy. And it is the type of energy that slips away. It slips through your fingers, right? You can have it for a moment of time and you, oh, it's there and I get it, and then it slips away. And it slips away for a lot of reasons, because we're in a world that then, you know, slaps us across the face a couple of times and says, yeah, but you gotta go to work still. Yeah, but you need money. Yeah, but people will be awful to you. Yeah, but there's all kinds of troubles in the world. Yeah, and a lot of those troubles are your own, or your kids' troubles, your family's troubles, your friends' troubles, right? So, what do we do with this? I find that one of the biggest difficulties in holding on to that sense of oneness, that love, is that we see all this trouble, and it causes us to shrink back. It causes us to put up walls. It causes us to have barriers, and in so doing, we perceive that we're no longer one with one another, with each other. We perceive that there's no longer still that love underlying everything, that oneness, that we're all really just part of one big thing, whatever that thing is. And that's a challenge. And I think, and I'm not going to be trying to give a solution to that challenge, because I don't think there's any one solution. I think, and I know, that's just part of it. That we need to recognize this and look at it honestly, not shrink away from it, and then do the best we can with it. Because that's what we're here for. One thing I know is that we need to conquer fear. So even while sometimes it's necessary to divide, sometimes I can't be with this person, I can't be in this situation, it's not good for me, that's healthy, right? For me as a being, for this chunk of reality that I identify as. The challenge is to not do that in a way that is just fearful, right? And that is in a type of fear, right? That lashes out, that demeans, that over-criticizes, that demonizes. Because that puts us in a different spot. It's not so much what it does to whatever it's directed at. It's what it does to us. It puts us in this energy of thinking that we're divided, that we're separated, that we can't get back to anything that we've decided to cut off, that it's gone for good. And that's not a healthy place to be in. It's healthy to make boundaries, and it's healthy to cut things out of our lives that need to be cut out. But there's always something of us in that thing we've just cut off, in that person we've just decided I'm not going to be around, in that situation that is no longer for me. There's always still something of us in it. There's something of me in it. There's something of you in it. And when we react in fear and shove those things away in that energy, what we end up doing is denying a bit of ourselves. And that's not healthy. And that's how we get into situations where we can imagine that it makes a lot of sense to, bomb hospitals full of innocent people who have nothing to do with maybe somebody else has hurt us, but the people in this hospital mostly have nothing to do with that. But it's okay, it's justified. Because, right? Because we can't recognize ourselves in the other, right? In those people. Here's where it really gets tricky. And this is really the point that I was supposed to get to. We can see that happening in the world. And we go, oh, do you see what they're doing? They're bombing so-and-so. And they don't even see that those are also people. How dare they? They're awful. Oh, guess what? I just crossed the line too. I just got pulled into that same energy. Now maybe they are awful. But it's the energy, right? It's the energy of me judging rather than what I really should be. Where I really should be at is like, oh, they don't realize what they're doing. How awful for them. I'm so sorry for them. Because they don't realize what they're doing. They don't realize how fearful, alone, afraid, worried, full of anxiety, etc., etc., etc. they are. That's a higher sight to look out at the world from. It's tough to hold on to, and that's what I'm talking about. Try to hold on to that. Go throughout your day with that. And yet that is what we need. That is why the world is where it is right now. Because not enough of us have that. In fact, many of us, and I would say most of our leaders, don't even know it exists. They don't even know you can be in that. And that's a shame. But recognizing it is the first step. Recognizing that we can come to solutions that meet everyone's most pressing needs. That's a whole different world. That's a world that comes from that place of where I'm holding on to that type of love, that type of water has become real enough for me that it doesn't slip through my fingers. Somehow it stays. Somehow it stays. And that's the point of this whole thing called awakening. It has to be. Nothing else about it really matters if we don't grasp that. Because otherwise, we get into a place where I'm ascended, I'm spiritual, I'm here sitting with my legs crossed in my space where everything is, I've got my cards and my objects of all my practice around. So what? So what? So what? If you don't have this other thing, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And that's really it. That's the message today. And the flip side of it is, if you have that, you have everything. There is nothing that you lack. If you have that, you have balance between the cups and the swords energy. The swords energy comes in quick and fast. We're real good at that. We're not good at this. We live in a world that is constantly tuning us in. We're always looking out for the angle. We're always looking out for what's going to hurt us, for who's going to hurt us, for where the danger is, right? The heart energy, to look through that, to look through the heart-mind. Those things come into balance. We see through both, not just one or the other. Yes, we're able to draw a boundary. We're able to use the sword and cut a straight line when we need to. But it's not because they're awful and evil. It's because I have to do that for myself, right? Because there's a healthy boundary here. Or I have to do this for children. I have to do this, for some chunk of the world. I have to do this for nature. I have to do this literally for our water. The water that we drink. There are lines that need to be drawn that aren't being drawn. And that's going to take swords energy. That's going to take fighting. Yes, it is. But it's got to have a balance with the heart energy, with the cups. It has to. Or we won't succeed. And even if we do succeed, it'll be a mixed result at best. So, that's pretty much the message today. There's more to go into with this. What happens? What happens when I get into that energy of I see somebody doing something and I know better than they do. I know better than that. There's something there. There's more there that we got to get into. But not today. For today, it's all about just here. Get to know this. Get to know this. Get used to seeing through this. However you can. There's got to be softness. If this doesn't have any softness to it, there's something wrong. It's something that needs to be kind of broken out of its shell. Some layers that need to be chiseled away. Maybe some nice honey-filled liquid that needs to just bathe it and soften it up, right? If it was sunshiny weather, I would say one really great way is to go just sit in the sun and let it beat down on you. It'll soften you. Hopefully we'll get some of that weather soon. Whether the sun shines out in the world where you're at or not, I hope that some sun comes into your life anyway. This has been the news from Not So Far North. I'm Jared Randall. I do love y'all. I do trust that we're gonna find a way. And the more we look for that way, the way that's good for us and for everyone, the quicker we're gonna find it. The more we make that our goal and our drive, then things are gonna speed up in the best imaginable way. All right. Peace.